Philip, we're hearing reactions from all across the world. In fact, we're expecting to hear from German Chancellor Olaf Scholz shortly. What has been the reaction across the world?
Well, there has been a reaction from Olaf Scholz earlier this morning via social media, which describes what has been going on in Ukraine over the past few hours as a day of shame for Russia. But he's not the only world leader who's been reacting this morning. We've had a comment from the French President Emmanuel Macron, who has just expressed solidarity with Ukraine and condemned the Russian attacks. There is a meeting taking place today of the Defense Council here in Paris to discuss sanctions and what action to be taken by the European Union. Spain has condemned the Russian attacks. Denmark has shut down its embassy in Kiev. Norway has moved its embassy out of Kiev to Lviv in the west of Ukraine. Portugal's foreign minister has called for an immediate end to the invasion, describing it as a violation of international law. China has also criticized what's going on, describing the situation as a critical moment. There have been criticism also from Japan. We've had Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission president, who describes what President Putin has been doing as a barbaric attack, slamming what she said were the cynical reasons for his decision to invade Ukraine. Josep Borrell, the European Union foreign minister, has said this is the darkest hour since the end of the Second World War. And President Joe Biden, who's due to speak again today, has described this as a premeditated war, which he says could lead to the catastrophic loss of human life.
Well, so yeah, and some Republican lawmakers are criticizing him for not doing enough to prevent this invasion. Could the West have done anything to prevent this, or was Putin just determined to do this no matter the cost?
This is a very difficult subject because, as we know, Ukraine is not a member of NATO, so it is not a case of the NATO Article 5, which basically means an attack against one NATO member is an attack against all NATO members, so therefore they can come to the defense of one of their fellow members. Ukraine is not a member of NATO, so I think there is a lot of precaution from the West about getting involved too much in this conflict because they don't want to spark a third world war. And President Biden has said we're not going to send boots on the ground into Ukraine because the day that American forces open fire on Russian forces and vice versa, that will mark the start of World War III, and we have to avoid that happening. So the only way out of this, well, there are two ways. First of all, there are diplomatic negotiations. Well, that hasn't led anywhere and has led to Vladimir Putin tearing up the Minsk agreement, which was the basis of peace in eastern Ukraine. So all the diplomatic channels appear to be closing down or have been closed down. There's still a very small little window open, but nobody believes that's going to go anywhere. So the other way to deal with this is to introduce sanctions. The United States has already announced sanctions, will probably announce further sanctions maybe later today. I think they've been holding them back because they say they want to hit President Putin and Russia very hard so that it will make him think again. The EU has announced sanctions. They say they have more sanctions lined up, which they're going to talk about, which they're going to introduce. But the problem is that for the West, what can they introduce as sanctions that are not going to have a knock-on effect and a detrimental effect for the economies of the West? Certainly more the European Union than for the United States, which is much more independent as far as energy is concerned than the EU is. So I think there will be announcements of more sanctions, but it's not a case right now of anybody sending troops into Ukraine to defend Ukraine. Ukraine is up on its own in this, basically. They will supply weapons, they will supply logistical support, but they won't go in there to fight alongside Ukrainian soldiers.
If Russia does occupy